Violence in Syria is on the rise again as an internationally mediated appears to be cracking, and new clashes are breaking out among warring parties. Adding to the crisis, Islamic State terrorists have kidnapped more than 300 workers near the capital, Damascus. This is according to the state media reports. The United Nations is urging access for humanitarian aid to civilians stranded by fighting. Zlatica Hoke has more.
Syrian government forces and their allies have been engaged in renewed fighting with opposition forces in the northern city of Aleppo for a few days. Reports say the clashes have been the worst since a partial ceasefire came into effect in late February and are threatening to derail the agreement that has helped reduce violence across Syria. The UN's Special Envoy for Syria said Thursday he will meet with stakeholders from Damascus, Iran, Turkey and Saudi Arabia before the talks resume next week.
I need to verify the international and regional stakeholders' position in order to know the level of a critical positive mass leading to concrete results in the next round of talks.
The head of a UN-backed humanitarian task force for Syria said Thursday that international aid could not reach besieged communities that are desperate for food and medical supplies.
We had 5 convoys ready to go the last 4 days. 5 convoys could not go. 287,000 people therefore did not get the relief in hard-to-reach areas or in besieged areas.
The Russian Ministry of Defense on Thursday published images showing what it says is an aid delivery to Syria's eastern city of Deir ez-Zor, which is under siege by Islamic State. Russian President Vladimir Putin on Thursday boasted the country's success in fighting the militants in Syria.
The recent events in Syria have demonstrated Russia's capability to solve problems not only close to, but also far away from its borders.
Russia and Iran have helped the Syrian government regain some territory from Islamic State, whose assets also are targeted by the coalition airstrikes. But the group continues to wreak havoc in the war-torn country. State television reported Thursday that the militants have abducted more than 300 workers from a cement plant northeast of the capital.
Experts say the Islamic State is looting and selling cultural antiquities from Iraq and Syria on an industrial scale. The destruction and sale of these treasures is not only condoned, but has been institutionalized within the Islamic State itself. And as Jeff Swickard reports, artifacts are beginning to show up on these markets around the world.
In May 2015, Islamic State fighters seized the ancient Syrian city of Palmyra, a UNESCO World Heritage Site north of Damascus, known for its Greek, Roman, and Persian ruins and archaeological treasures. Many feared they would destroy the priceless remains. When Syrian forces recaptured the city last month, few of the famed monuments were destroyed, but many of the ancient ruins are still intact, though IS was said to have looted ancient grave sites around the city. Experts say one of the reasons for the destruction has to do with the extremist group's rigid interpretation of history. Professor Daniel Serler is with Johns Hopkins University.
They would say they're restoring the true Islam. They're unconcerned with history before. I mean, they're not too much concerned with accurate history after that.
The Islamic State's interest in the site is far more than religious, says Deborah Lair, chairwoman of the Antiquities Coalition in Washington.
So they have recognized that there's a value in the destruction of culture in terms of intimidation of local populations, and that there's value in the looting of it and then the sale in raising funds for their own cause.
Lair says IS also understands the global propaganda value of destroying priceless cultural heritage, shown here as they pillage the Mosul Museum in Iraq, making front-page news around the world.
The Mosul Museum under attack and the video that they posted on YouTube has gotten more attention than any other single event.
There's also a monetary motive. The Islamic State has created a ministry of antiquities to industrialize the looting and sell the
It's going and finding treasure, encouraging people to dig. And what is unfortunate is many of these are not trained archaeologists, is that we not only lose the treasure, but we lose the whole context in which these are found.
Under international law, destroying cultural antiquities is a war crime, and authorities hope one day they will be able to prosecute Islamic State members for their crimes.
If the U.S. campaign were to come down to Republican Donald Trump versus Democrat Hillary Clinton, 60% of American women polled in a recent CNN survey said they would cast their ballots for Clinton. As candidates reach out to women voters, VOA correspondent Aru Pandey talks to female African immigrant entrepreneurs on the challenges of starting a woman-owned small business and whom they support come November.
As a woman, who would have thought? I come from Africa, I could have started business in America,
The last year has not been without its challenges for ice cream shop owner Ann Siegel. The Ugandan American and mother of a young daughter used her family's savings to get her year-old Laurel, Maryland business off the ground.
It's so easy for a man to go to the bank and they give him a loan. Me, a woman, what do you do? Oh, I'm a housewife. Oh, yeah, really? Nobody's going to give you a loan,
Actually, no. Margot Dorfman, CEO of the Women's Chamber of Commerce, says the challenges of being a female business owner are reflected in the statistics. While women own 36% of all U.S. companies, they generate only 4% of all U.S. annual revenues.
We have been undervalued for decades now. The fact that we still don't have fair pay, we have to leave corporate America to start our own businesses, to maybe get fair pay, friendly work environment, and still struggle when we've got into the marketplace.
The second woman!
On who might best address the struggle, Dorfman says Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton wins her organization's endorsement.
She is committed to making sure that small businesses have access to capital and access to markets, and is very interested in the access to affordable health care.
Buki, a fellow Clinton supporter, grew her Atlanta-based digital marketing company using high-interest credit cards. In the presidential campaign, the Nigerian-American says she is paying close attention to women's workplace issues.
Some people don't necessarily want to go the entrepreneurial route, but they're having to essentially come out of the workplace and become 1099 workers because they're having to choose between a paycheck or being able to take care of a sick child at home. So these are some of the issues that I'm going to be paying attention to, and a lot of women really should.
Back in Maryland, Ann Siegel is paying close attention to the economy as she works to make her shop profitable. Though she voted for Barack Obama, she says she's disappointed with Democrats and is now looking in a different direction.
Who is Trump? He's created a job. He's employing people. When it comes to economy, at least he knows better than the other guys who are running around telling us what to do.
Regardless of whom they support, both Siegel and Openuga say American women should ensure their voices are heard come November.
Diabetes is fast becoming a major global problem, affecting 422 million people. But nanotechnology may someday make monitoring blood glucose levels and administering medicine much simpler than it is today. VOA's George Pudick reports.
Two factors are critical for the successful treatment of these patients. First is a correct diagnosis of the type of disease, and second, administering a dosage of appropriate drugs. A misdiagnosis and consequently the wrong treatment can cause many problems.
If you label someone who actually has type 2 diabetes as type 1, they'll be left on insulin for the rest of their life when they don't need it. Even worse, if someone with type 1 diabetes is mislabeled as having type 2 diabetes, then they may not be treated they need, and they may suffer life-threatening complications.
A new, less expensive test developed by the University of Exeter Medical School measures 30 genetic variants of the patient's DNA and calculates the risk for type 1 or type 2. Individual diagnosis can be completed with a commonly used test for antibodies. Scientists are now trying to develop an even simpler DNA-based test that could be done with a smartphone. In the meantime, researchers in South Korea are developing a nanotechnology-based adhesive strip that takes away pain and stress of daily injections for diabetes patients.
저희 디바이스는
The device is a patch type which enables diabetic patients to monitor blood sugar levels via sweat without taking blood samples and injections, as well as to control glucose levels by injecting medication.
The patch is touched by microneedles that painlessly enter subcutaneous tissue. When the connected chip senses glucose level rise above normal, a small heating element dissolves medication and releases it into the bloodstream. Tests done on lab mice were promising, so scientists hope they will soon start testing the patch on humans. In this phase, experiments are still expensive, but scientists say the price will drop once the patch is ready for mass production.